Let's bring in the commissioner, Adam Silver, joining us on the program. Do you have business cards?
Me?
Yeah.
Hold on, wait.
What's it say?
It says National Basketball Association, Adam Silver, Commissioner, a couple of phone numbers and an address.
Okay. How often do you hand those out?
You know, it's so funny. When I give them to younger people, they go like this.
Wait.
Like,
What is it?
But our generation still likes business cards, so I still carry them. Or I had about 1,000 printed, I think, when I became commissioner, so I'm going to use them up.
You should. Just hand them out, autograph them, collector's items here.
I'm impressed. You got to be impressed. I had them in my pocket.
That's impressive.
We didn't rehearse this.
I know. That's impressive. You were at the University of Chicago, late 80s?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember your first Jordan Bulls game when you were in school?
I do, because I went to law school at University of Chicago. I got there in 1985, and at that time we could just go down to. You just bought tickets literally at the ticket window at game time. I had gone to Duke, so I knew Michael from North Carolina. It wasn't secret, but they weren't selling out all the games back then.
Yeah.
It was, people forget it. It was several years before he won his first championship. He was great, but it wasn't the Michael Jordan that he turned into.
When do you remember when it was more than just a basketball game?
I remember there was an all-star game in Chicago, so it would have been, I don't know, it was like 87 or something. I remember that. What was the year when he won the slam dunk?
88.
88. Yeah, okay. So that, I think that transformed, him into this global icon in a way. I just think that iconic shot, I can picture it of him flying through the air. I remember, I did not have great seats, but I remember I was in the arena when he did that. And I just remember that was transformational, I think.
How involved were you with NBC bringing in Michael Jordan?
Not at all. You mean just now? There's just this announcement they're bringing him back? They told me they were going to try, and I said, good luck. I honestly didn't think he was going to do it. It took us, as you know, decades to convince him to do the documentary, The Last Dance, which came out during the pandemic and ended up still, I think, is one of them, widely viewed on Netflix. But he didn't, he didn't want to do that for a long time. We had the footage, and I know there were other inquiries over the years, and I think for whatever reason, he was ready to do it now. I think he has, of course, incredibly fond memories of NBC. I don't think that's lost on anyone. He has, as you well know, some of the very same people are there. People like John Miller, who he had a relationship from back all those years ago. Mark Lazarus was still, there, just switched over to the other side of the operation. But, so I think he had those relationships. And again, I didn't discourage them, but I was surprised he said yes.
Yeah. Still trying to figure out what his role is going to be. Now, do you follow up? Are you curious about what role Jordan is going to play with the upcoming camp?
Yeah, no, I didn't know in advance, but that, they told me what their idea was for him in that role, and I think that they're still working through that. I think that, I spoke to Michael about it. He's excited about it. I think for him it means he's got to stay current with the game. Obviously, he's a small owner still in Charlotte, but he's so passionate about it. We talk about it all the time. He wants the game to be played the right way. He's still got a huge business around the game with the Jordan brand. But I think more importantly, he watches a lot of basketball, and he knows it's what defines him still. And so I think fans are going to enjoy hearing his take, on the modern league. I think one of the things that I'm excited about in terms of NBC coming back, and this goes back to the Dick Ebersol days, is that I remember that sign behind Dick's desk that said storytelling. I think they're still some of the best at it, and I think telling stories around the game. Even right now, that's sort of this narrative out there about small markets, whatever else. Credible stories around Shea and Tyrese and Pascal Siakam. It's my job too. We first met when I was at NBA Entertainment, but to to tell those stories to fans. I think that's what draws them in. I mean, there's the lovers of pure basketball, and I think the basketball is fantastic, but you also have to show how multidimensional these players are and, explain to them the storylines, the conflict on the floor, and nobody does that better than NBC.
You talk about Michael staying current. There are times when Charles may not know who's even playing in a game that he's watching. Now, it's funny to us, but you're the commissioner, and this is your lead broadcast team or studio show. How does that kind of settle with you when Charles may not even know who he's talking about?
Well, I that may be a little extreme. I mean, I'm down there a fair amount at their studio in Atlanta. I mean, he's watching the games. I mean, they made a decision to take an entertainment route with that studio show. I mean, I think ESPN was always about more hardcore basketball. Maybe NBC was somewhere in the middle in the old days, but it's an entertainment show, and he's entertaining, and fans seem to love it. Sometimes he's a bit of the crazy uncle, I think, but even when I think there's a difference when putting aside, how focused he is on the game. My sense always when Charles is critical, it is a little bit like your uncle at the Thanksgiving table being critical. It's like there's no doubt it comes from a place of love. I don't feel the same way about some of the other commentators. And I think it's Charles found a lane and he does it well. And it'll be interesting to see how that converts. As you know, they're now bringing that studio show to ESPN and ABC next year.
Yeah.
I think, we'll see how that works out. I mean, I love the fact that those guys are still going to be involved in our telecast, but, I'm not sure whether it will be produced differently for them or there'll be a different expectation from ESPN and ABC fans or watchers than maybe what people are seeing late at night on TNT.
He's the commissioner of the NBA, Adam Silver. Everybody gets caught up in ratings, and I just say either watch it or not, But the role that social media plays on your priority list, because this is a global game, and people may not watch the game, but they're watching those clips. You're getting views there, but as the commissioner, you got to, pay homage to the networks. But where does social media rank on your priority list?
Social media is high on our priority list. I mean, first of all, we've had something like 1 billion views so far globally on social media since the finals have started. But also, to get back to your ratings point, I think what gets lost sometimes is just like social media is global, so are the telecasts of our games. And I understand people wanting to talk about our domestic ratings, and to the extent that the ratings are down, that's a storyline, or they're up, that's a storyline. And there is a correlation between market size, more than I'm happy about. I was listening to Aaron Rodgers yesterday, and he was talking about now becoming a Steeler, and he was saying, now I've played for two of the most storied franchises, the Packers and Steelers. But nobody stopped him to say, those are small markets. And so maybe I'm jealous in a way from of the NFL that's never, Steelers and Packers, the storyline it's unimaginable it would be. Can you believe two small markets are meeting in the Super Bowl this year? It's two storied franchises. And in the NBA, I think because there was so much outsized success of certain franchises over the first several decades of the league. I mean, that statistic is roughly over the first 65 years of the league, 3 teams won 60% of the championships. And so it's understandable that Lakers, Celtics, Bulls still globally have these huge followings because it gets almost passed on generationally. And to make ourselves more like the NFL, I think we're moving in that direction where we have a system now where Oklahoma City and Indianapolis can compete in the same way that larger markets can because of a cap system and tax and all that stuff. So it's going to take us a while to get there, but I understand why ratings are part of the story. Now, the last part I'll say about social media, I do think something worth thinking a lot more about and getting more sophisticated about is how do you translate social media into a desire to watch live games? I'll give you just one example. I think we may have even talked about it last time I was on. Victor Wembanyama was in New York playing on Christmas and then played in Brooklyn a few days later, so he was staying in New York around that time. He's a chess player. He went to Washington Square Park, played chess in the rain for 45 minutes. Within 5 days, 100 million people had viewed him playing chess. And it was just anecdotally, anyone I would ask, because it was also on a lot of the morning shows, I said, "Did you see Victor? Oh, yeah, that was the guy from France. He played." Now, the question is, seeing that he also plays chess, and he's, by definition, you could say a multi-dimensional guy. There's far more to him than ball playing. He speaks multiple languages, even the fact that he's, grew up outside of Paris, etc. How do we as the league use that to bring people to the set to watch live games? Because I would say, looking back, we've gotten distracted at times and forgotten or I've forgotten that my core responsibility is to get more people to be passionate about NBA basketball and watch our games. That's what sustains our business. I mean, it's, of course, ticket sales, but ticket sales are as high as they've been in the history of the league, and there's not a lot more room to grow because our buildings are roughly 95% full. We have a global following, so there's enormous opportunity, both through social media, but where the real value comes is from people watching live games. So I think we can do a better job using social media to bring people to the set, to say, tonight, 8:30, ABC, game 3, tune in. And to be more sophisticated about understanding, would people rather see more about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's background, growing up in Canada, et cetera, what the things he loves, or do they want to see him, working out? What aspects of him are going to cause people to be more likely to be interested in watching the game tonight?
Why does the All-Star game have to be competitive?
It's an interesting question because, again, I was just talking about how jealous I am of aspects of the NFL. The Pro Bowl, at this point, is flag football. And I think that fans seem to accept that. It gets a good rating. And nobody suggests that that's indicative of a lack of desire or passion by NFL players. For whatever reason, in the case in the NBA, when we've tried other things and thought, all right, we'll go more entertainment route or whatever else, the reaction is, I can't believe your players aren't giving their all for an all-star game. Or at least maybe they don't expect them to play like they would in the playoffs, but they're expecting a competitive game. And so that's fair, then we have to respond to that. And I haven't been successful, frankly, in the last few years. We tried some new things in San Francisco. I mean, part of it was there was a format issue. There was a huge stoppage of play in the final. We had this round robin where, there was a celebration around Turner, which they deserve, but I think the game lost all its momentum. So something you've talked a lot about historically is this USA World concept. Obviously, I watch what other sports are doing. The NHL had great success with the four-nation face-off. So we're looking now for next year. We'll be in LA. We'll be in the Intuit Dome where the Olympics are going to take place in 28. And we're going to be on NBC, back to NBC for the All-Star game, and we're going to be smack in the middle of Winter Olympic coverage. So if ever a time to move to USA World, it's now. What we're toying with now and working with Andre Iguodala at the Players Association is what's the right format? Because I think straight up USA World probably won't work because although the number of international players is growing and it's roughly 30% of our league right now, it wouldn't be fair to pick the All-Stars 70% as one team, 30% as the other. So I think we're, again, playing off what the NHL did. Maybe there's multiple teams, maybe there's more than one USA team, but we can achieve that concept and I think create a sense of nationalism around it and, again, feel like we belong sort of on the Sunday where it's otherwise Olympic coverage. So I'm hopeful that we can create something more competitive there.
Do you have your wish list of expansion, like the cities right now?
There's cities we're thinking about.
How many cities would you say are on that wish list?
Well, let me begin by saying it's not obvious to me we should expand. Okay. I think it's likely over time we will. And the reason I say it's not obvious is because as a global business, where something like 2 billion people will connect with us on social media, over 1 billion people over the course of the year will watch some portion of the game, adding another U.S. city, arguably, it's unclear how much growth we'll get as a result of that. And when you're adding expansion franchises, you're diluting their competition. Two more, let's say we expand by 2 teams, 2 more teams that are going to be competing for those same players. and you're diluting your economics to the extent that we have locked in television money now for the next decade. You have two more partners. Having said that, I do believe certain markets potentially can be additive to the NBA, and that's what we're going to look at. And I think part of it is geographic. It's a big country, making sure we're represented, all around the country. And then over time, maybe there's more we can do in Canada, and Mexico City is a city we've talked about before. I don't want to say specific cities today just because many have reached out to us to say they're interested, and our reaction so far has been, thank you for your interest. We haven't taken any meetings with any cities. We have a board meeting in Las Vegas around the Summer League in July. I know we're going to be talking about it then. I had been saying for the last several years, let us get through collective bargaining, which we did. Let us figure out our new media relationships, which we have, and that would be the time to consider it seriously. So that's what we're going to do this summer. But
I'm retiring in 3 years, Commissioner.
What?
I'm retiring in 3 years. Will we have expansion in 3 years?
I'm honestly not sure.
Okay.
Even if we were to announce we're engaged in a process, it's not clear to me at what moment they would start playing. But look, I don't mean to tease people with this. This is the summer we're going to look at it seriously.
I thought you'd be a little more emotional about my retirement. I mean, it's kind of blew right past that.
You're like Michael Jordan. You've retired before.
I'm not coming
It's not
back.
real yet.
I'm not coming. I'm not going to play baseball. Just going to let you know. I'm not going to let you. But hey, thanks for joining us. Have fun tonight, and thanks again.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
That's Adam Silver, NBA Commissioner.